Hi, everybody. This is Gertrude Bache again, and welcome again to the Her Story TV and podcast. I have the honor of having another amazing woman coming to me all the way from the United States by the name of Catherine. Catherine, welcome.
Thank you.
Please tell
Happy.
everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Okay, thank you so much. So my name is Catherine Dietz. I am from San Diego, California. I am 48 years old. And several years ago, I was 6 years into a phenomenal relationship with a man who we had an awesome connection and had grown so much together. And we decided to move in together, take it to that next level. At the same time, I was starting my own business. I was teaching workshops and doing healing touch and so excited about this new chapter in my life. And then all of a sudden the dynamics started to change between me and my then partner. And it started to become very obvious that he really didn't want to be a partner. He wanted to be more of a boyfriend. And so our connection really started breaking down, and it hurt so much because we had so many great things in that relationship. And all of a sudden, I felt like he didn't believe in me and my ability to start my own business. He wasn't supportive of it. He was doubting, he was questioning. And it just really hurt to a soul level of having somebody so loving in your life have that type of response to a dream that I was beginning to fulfill. And so I really had to look deep within. I had had unhealthy relationships before that I had grown out of, that I had really stepped into my own, and I attracted this wonderful man into my life. And now this hurdle was coming up. So I really had to look deep within myself and decide, is this the right relationship for me to stay in? What can I do? Should I stay? Should I go? And as I was going through this very painful experience, I was sitting at my desk wondering, how am I going to help my future clients? And the Healthy Path process just literally came right through me. Healthy Path, the Healthy is an acronym, and it was these steps that I went through to get clarity on this relationship, to align my head with my heart. So often I was in my head, what about this? What about that? And I wasn't allowing myself to drop into my heart. So once I allowed myself to drop into the wisdom of my heart and have these two connect, I was able to make that decision from clarity. I was able to make that decision from confidence. And then I had the courage to speak up from that place of truth and from a place of respect rather than resentment. Because so often when we feel hurt, there's so much resentment going on. And so I used the wisdom of my heart and soul to speak up from a place of honesty and respect. And we're able to go our separate ways, but with love. And so the Healthy Path to Love was born. And even though relationships don't last forever, we can still handle them with love, even if we go our separate ways. So since
It's
then,
interesting that you found a way of going your separate ways with love. That's very unusual because a lot of times when relationships break down,
yeah,
not pretty,
absolutely, absolutely.
not a
And it
happy
wasn't.
ending.
Yes, but I felt so strongly about keeping the love in the relationship. That was the commitment in the first place. We committed
Yes,
to love. And so in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, we didn't get married, but we committed to love. And so even though it hurt so bad, there was certainly a part of me that did want to lash out and like, hey, it's like,
right.
no,
It's
that's not who I
happening.
want to be. That's not who I want to be. And I'm going to stay in love as I communicate.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went through a separation and a divorce in 2015. I had met my husband when I was 17. It was a 29-year marriage. And when I decided to leave, I had got to a point where I could feel that I was starting to hate him. And I remember thinking, this is the father of my children, and we are connected at the hip for the rest of our lives.
Right.
And I want to be able to meet him at my daughter's wedding or my son's wedding and still be friends.
Yes.
And based on that, when I started feeling that I was hating him, it was time
Mhm.
for me to leave. And we still have a really good relationship right now. And I'm so grateful I did it that way as well, not just for me, but for our children. And what you're teaching now is very, very empowering.
Yes.
So one of the things that I want to get out of the Her Story podcast from all of the women that I'm interviewing are the magical insights that you have had through your journey.
Yes.
So they say that time is an illusion and your past, your present, and your future exist in the same timeline.
Right.
So from what you have learned in your life, if you were to go back to your younger self
Mm.
while you were going through all of this, what advice would you give her?
Oh my goodness. If I was to go back to my younger self, it would be believe in yourself, believe in your power, and stay in integrity with your core values. Don't let outside influences and conditions turn you into somebody that you don't want to be. Remember who you are, remember your truth, remember your value, and do the best that you possibly can to stay aligned with that, even in the midst of conflict.
And that's not a very easy thing to do, especially when you have to take into consideration family, you have to take into consideration the society you live in, what will people say?
Right.
I had this ideal life where I was married to a doctor, I lived in a big flashy house, and on the surface,
Yeah.
we looked like the ideal family, and yet things were falling apart all around me.
Right.
Those societal pressures are not easy to deal with. I come from an African culture where everybody's got their 2 cents worth in your relationship, whether you like it or not.
Right. Yes.
You will get uncles and aunts and cousins and sisters all chiming in and telling you what you should do. And normally it's stay in the relationship no matter what.
Absolutely. Yes.
So how do women navigate this? How do we stay strong and true to ourselves? Because it's not very easy in most cultures.
I agree. Absolutely. And that's definitely a culture, especially in marriage, like, stay in it no matter what. You have to stay committed no matter what. What has helped me with that particular hurdle is just remembering that I'm the one living my life, not the people that are trying to give me advice on how I should live my life. They're coming from their own perception, their own belief, their own conditioning, and they're basically, and they could definitely come from a place of love much of the time, but they're usually projecting their stuff
Yes.
on. So I have to keep on remembering, if this doesn't feel right for me, then it's probably not right for me. I need to sit with my own feelings and my own experience and know, and not feel guilty or ashamed if I don't have the same beliefs that other people have.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole staying committed no matter what, I always go back to, is it as long as we both shall live, or is it as long as we both shall love? Because if we're not loving each other, if we're not having honesty and we're not having respect and we're not having a connection, then that's not the purpose of this relationship. So why just simply go through the motions because I said I would stay no matter what when there's no more love in the relationship?
Yeah, that's interesting because one analogy that I always share is that sometimes couples end up like cellmates in a prison cell.
Instead of soulmates, exactly.
Yeah, you have a life sentence and now you are just waiting to die together, even though the love has died a long time ago.
Yeah.
It is absolutely crazy what people will put themselves through.
It's true. It's true. And they'll even say they're staying for the sake of the kids. Well, I don't want to disrupt their life. And yet then they are also sharing an example of what relationships are like for their kids.
And that's what I've always said about having children, is that you are the role models of your kids.
Absolutely.
So I started to think, what am I doing to my daughter? Yeah. Am I saying to her, no matter what, you have to hang in there, even if you're not happy?
Right.
And what was I saying to my sons in terms of how they should treat their wife and have a relationship? So when I left, I remember thinking, I've done this for all of us.
Yes.
I've done it for my kids. I did it for my husband. And he moved on really quickly. He's now got a partner and he looks really happy. Yeah. And the timing was just that we had to go our separate ways, and it was okay, for us.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So your insights are interesting. And you've now developed a process that other people can follow to navigate out of these muddy waters, correct?
Absolutely. That's a great way to describe it too. Or I call it like the emotional roller coaster, because there are so many emotions involved. And so
Yes.
it's kind of hard to navigate through them. And then again, all those heads start speaking up. Well, so and so said this, or society's not going to like that, or my mother's going to be upset. And so we have to find a way to navigate and bring peace of mind by listening to our heart. And so the Healthy Path process talks about your mental beliefs. It helps you get in touch with your intuition. It's also a very spiritual approach. It's also about getting in touch with your inner power, your wisdom, your soul, your heart, and listening to that. And then even the physical part of us, because we feel that heaviness, or we feel that anxiety, or on the opposite end, we feel like, oh, I feel relief because I made this choice, or I feel relief because I finally spoke up for myself. You know, it really is. And absolutely speak up for ourselves first before moving on. But that's also about having the courage to recognize our truth and speak up for it too. A lot of women have been taught to like, just leave that to yourself. He doesn't need to deal with this. He's got too much stress on his plate. It's like,
Yes.
what about my plate? I have a plate too.
And I love what you've said, and you're using your hands a lot when you talk
Yes.
about where you should think from. It is a heart-centered thing.
Yes.
A lot of times we go in our head and we try and rationalize things, and yet your intuition is telling you the exact opposite.
Absolutely.
And it's learning to start thinking from here, from the heart, and that gut feeling that you have, and trusting it.
Yep.
It's not easy for a lot of people who aren't used to being that way.
I agree. If you're used to listening to the voice in your head, it does take some time to start listening to your intuition, but it's just practice. Just like
Yes.
every
It's
single
like a
thing.
muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The stronger it gets, the more you use it. And before you know it, you don't even think anymore. You know, it's the same thing with how I created the Her Story, the conference, the Her Story TV, the Her Story podcast. I had a lot of people telling me, oh, you're trying to achieve the impossible. This can't be done. How can you have 100 events with women speaking all over the world? And I just knew that this is the time, and it's going to work, and it will be so easy and organic and fluid. And I've stopped thinking my decisions. I feel them. If something feels right, I do not doubt it. I go for it like a bulldog with a bone.
Yes.
And when I trust that feeling, 9 times out of 10, I'm always right. But when I doubt it, I go wrong.
Exactly. And that's where we build trust with ourselves too. Absolutely. When you start listening to your heart and following your guidance, exactly like you just said, you start to trust yourself more. You're like, oh, that turned out well. You do it again. Oh, that turned out well too. And then it just becomes natural. They can just start to tap into it right away.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and sharing with our viewers today. I feel really honored that you're going to be taking part in the Her Story conference this year. And people can actually come out and meet you in person, and even take part in your workshop, because you will be running a workshop during the conference, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So anybody out there who is at a crossroads where you are struggling to leave, and it might not be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be something that you've been doing for a very long time, and you're doubting yourself and you're scared, come to the conference, meet Catherine, and get some tools that can help you move on to the next step. Catherine, keep in touch. It was lovely talking to you today.
You too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Namaste.